Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review. And today I'm going to be reviewing the upcoming streaming show, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, which starts streaming this Friday on Apple. The series set in the MonsterVerse. I think we go with, for what this has been, of course, the cinematic universe that Legacy Pictures have built up over the last decade or so, following Godzilla, Kong. Now this series, Godzilla vs. Kong, there's a sequel next year. There's a lot happening. And this is going to be a really interesting review. What I'm going to say before, I have been very lucky. I have seen the first 8 episodes. There are going to be 10 episodes in the series. They're going to be airing each week from Friday. So I appreciate that I am not only very far ahead of how anyone's going to be able to watch this, I've been able to binge it across one weekend. And I haven't seen the final 2 episodes. They're not available to watch yet. So reviews like this are always tricky. I've done it with Ahsoka, I've done it with a few of the TV shows before. I can't review the series as a whole because we're missing the final 2 episodes. There will be a spoiler review when the series is finished. I'd very much like to discuss this in detail. I'll be going over a little bit here and there. In this is completely spoiler free, I'm going to say, but with regards to thoughts on the series, I can't look at it on the series as a whole, only up to the point of episode 8. So it's tricky when it's like this with TV, but it is understandable, and this is a show I'm very excited to be talking about, if I'm being very honest, which kind of gives my initial thoughts away. And I'm going to sort of begin this review also talking about my thoughts on the Godzilla. I mean, I know it's the MonsterVerse because Kong, but it's hard not to think about it being like a Godzilla cinematic universe, isn't it? Featuring King Kong. And I really enjoy this. I'm a big fan of Godzilla. I haven't seen the 98 one since I was a child. We had it on VHS. I can't tell you how bad that is now or if it's great or whatnot, but the Gareth Edwards 2014 film I absolutely adore. It's got one of my favourite trailers of all time. It's got a lot going for it, a lot I very much enjoyed. And I've really enjoyed Kong Skull Island that followed it, and Godzilla vs. Kong that came out 2020 or 2021 now. God, it was during lockdown, wasn't it? That was the first one I saw, I think, after the cinemas reopened. One of the very first films we covered as press, actually, which was very weird to do that at home. But this is one I'm going to be talking about, as I said, this series. And I'm going to kickstart talking about my thoughts heading in. I've mentioned how much I've enjoyed some of those other films. When they announced this series, I'm going to be honest, I didn't sit here, I didn't check the cast list. I know obviously Kurt Russell was in the cast with Wyatt as well. I hadn't read into it too much because I didn't want to. I was sold. A series set in the Godzilla universe. Okay, it's called Monarch, so you can rightfully assume the series is going to be about Monarch the company. I've not seen the trailers. I've not seen a teaser. I've seen the posters. I had seen nothing till the first 8 episodes, so I don't know what people at home are expecting. I don't know what they've shown, what they've not. As I said, I'm not doing spoilers for this. I know that Godzilla himself is in the marketing, so I'm at least going to talk about that as much as I can and would like to, because I don't want anyone's experience to be ruined watching a series like this, because when you see him appear, it's pretty remarkable, and remarkable in the concept that a TV budget has been able to make Godzilla look as good as he does in the $200 million films, or however much they're costing these days. So kudos immediately to Apple for the visuals. I've spoke a lot over the last couple of years that I believe that quality-wise, Apple are the best streaming service. They go for quality, not quantity. They have some of the best shows around. They don't just put the money in for these shows as well. They are supporting, they're pushing them. They're doing weekly releases. I've mentioned I binged the first 8 episodes. This series as a week-to-week structure is quite beneficial because I was ready to go straight on to the next one. And there are a couple of cliffhangers which I think the 1-week gaps are going to really help viewers. I myself are going to be waiting a very long time for the final 2 episodes. I think January they're going to air, right before Masters of the Air. So Apple's got me for a very long time moving forward. And it's nice to have another show. It's been a busy month. I've been watching the Gen V. I've been watching the Loki. So it's great to watch something different. And I'm not going to talk about the characters too much in this review. I know this is a review of sorts. But like I did for Ahsoka, I want to talk about the lead. I'm going to talk about the same character, Lee Shaw, played by Kurt Russell, also his son Wyatt Russell. Again, I knew they were both cast. I didn't know it was in the same role. I believe that the opening titles is available to watch online. I know that the soundtrack to those titles is available online. But I really liked this, and some people might be funny about this, but the series is a dual narrative structure of, we have present day set after the first Godzilla film, almost immediately after. Alongside that, we then also have what's happened prior to that, the history of Monarch predating Kong Skull Island. So the series is almost split in 2. We're following adjacent storylines. And something that's lent itself very well to the series is the supporting cast of characters. As I said, I'm not going to give too much details away, but we are learning a lot about them through a series. I know that one of the criticisms of these Godzilla films have been, why are there so many humans? Why do you have to care for the human characters? And I've always understood that, which is very strange that I'm coming out of this series now thinking I actually enjoy this. And I think by having a 10-episode series, you're naturally lending the project to these characters to develop them. And at the same time, you can then still bring in your monster side of things, whereas in a 2-hour film, you don't have the luxury of developing X amount of characters and having the action and having the monster stuff, which is where that criticism does come in quite a bit. And I think the show handles it well, because the characters that we're spending time with, they're not there for the sake of it. They're not pop-up cameos here and there. They're not two-dimensional. Across the series, we are figuring out the history, what the impact they're going to have on the story moving forward, what impact they could have on this universe moving forward. And as I said, exploring the history of Monarch is something that does work. And I guess that's one of the questions heading into a show. Can you justify a TV series about Monarch? I believe you can in this. I'm hooked on the key story. I'm hooked on the character arcs. And as I said, you're going to get Godzilla. You're going to get monsters in there. And I think it's credit to not just the history of the Godzilla films. I know we've got Godzilla -1 coming out in a couple of weeks, I'm very excited for. But it is really interesting that this project can come out like this. And I wouldn't normally say this is like a great thing, but it feels like the way they've took the show, the story for this, has not been, here's a load of monsters, let's add in some characters around it, because that has been the case with films. What this show instead of doing is saying, here are all the characters, here are where we are in the story, here are where we are in a timeline, without getting into all that sort of stuff. And now we can drip in a couple of things if we'd like to here and there. There's never too many, but there's never not enough. And I think this is where the show's handled it very well. And I, for one, am a big fan of it for doing so. And I've kind of spoke about the story as much as I can. I'm really cautious with sort of spoiler-free reviews, but also TV shows that are unfinished. I don't know what could happen in the last 2 episodes. And as I said, I don't know what's been shown to all in the marketing campaign. But I want to talk again about the Apple side of things with the budget, that the very idea of a Godzilla TV series is frightening in respect to doing this wrong in the 21st century. We've had incredible things such as The Mandalorian, I mentioned Ahsoka, we've had Warner Brothers have even made the jump to TV of some things. We've got so many streaming services, we've got so many different projects in the go, and then we've got Doctor Who in 2 weeks. And Doctor Who, the reason I pinpoint that is because Doctor Who's had its incredible relaunch, they've had money come in, and for the first time Doctor Who is going to have a budget to be on par with the TV shows in the same genre similar to it coming out, and this is where this show's delivered. I think if you get the budget wrong for this, if you're doing a Godzilla series in live action, however you want to call it, however you want to market it, you've got to deliver with the visuals, and they absolutely do, and that's a massive part of why the series works. I don't like saying, oh, it feels expensive, it feels big budget. We've seen a lot of shows recently where you can have a very low budget and have one of the best shows ever made. You can have an extremely high budget, have a terrible show. But I, for one, as a fan of the series, wouldn't want to watch a series where there's no monsters because they couldn't afford to put them in. We're going to crop him out. We're going to show his tail for a scene or one episode. This show doesn't do that. There is a very, very precise, methodical, slow build across multiple episodes into seeing some of these creatures. We're getting monsters we've not seen in these films as well that look amazing with the budget, and that's where I'm coming in. This show isn't just about Godzilla, it's called Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and this is where I'm really enjoying it. It's because I'm finding out little things, different things, and the story is compensating itself to that. So I feel like I might repeat myself a couple of times. It's not my intention, but overall I'm having a blast watching this series, and as I said, with 2 episodes to go, if they stick the landing, then I'm going to be very excited moving forward. I can't tell you that there's a season 2 planned. We don't know how this ends. It's not been made official. It might just be a one-off miniseries. And you know what? I wouldn't mind if it was a miniseries. I wouldn't mind if there was a second season. This show has done enough to have me watching it. I enjoy the characters. I like who we're spending time with. I absolutely adore the soundtrack as well. Got to bring that up. The theme has been stuck in my head. And the one thing we all want from a good TV show is a very interesting opening title sequence. Now we go to Godzilla 2014. It's got one of my favourite title sequences with the hidden documents, the nuclear test in the Pacific. Obviously this film, well, the series is integrating some of that, which was really cool for me as well. So keep an eye on certain things. There's twists here and there, and a lot of things are being set up, which is blind as daylight when you really know what's going on. So it's an ambiguous way to end a review. It's tricky to call this a review. It's more of my spoiler-free thoughts than it is, I guess, a review. But as I said, when this series is done in January, I want to do a proper discussion. I'd like to get more people on, talk about the series as a whole, because if it sticks the landing, then I'm in. I know we've got Godzilla Kong 2 next year. I know there's other things in development. I'm down to watch any of them. I love the monster stuff. We don't get enough of it. We get the right amount of it, and it's always exciting when it does come on. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you all for watching. As I said, I don't actually have that many criticisms, if I'm being honest. Again, when the 10 episodes are up, the way I've always judged TV, when we've done spoiler discussions with Star Wars, I'm always going to give it to the end of a series. I like to reflect on the series as a whole. So there's a couple of minor issues I have at present, but if they're ironed out in the next 2 episodes, for me at least, then I know it's not a problem. So that's why this is a bit different. It's tricky to do these kinds of reviews, but here we are doing them. And as I'm going to kind of run out with, watch the show when it starts on Friday. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's just the first episode dropping this week. Matt Shackman's directing, who of course did WandaVision, which was a great show as well. So there are some names attached to this, and Kurt Russell is magnificent in the series. Again, a slow build. We're not having him in for the sake of it. Wyatt Russell's not in for the sake of it. Yes, they're playing the same character in different timelines, but I actually really enjoy the pair of them and the reflective storylines. I'm not sitting here thinking, take me back to the 50s or get me back to the 10s. I'm enjoying both when they turn up, and that's what's interesting for me, and I hope this makes it to people at home as well. So that's going to do it for my review of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. As I said, spoiler review is going to come in January in the new year. We'll talk about a lot more detail, and until the next time, see you then.